We're going to go over how to use a capo in this lesson, and we're going to talk about why you would want a capo, and then we're going to go over 3 different types of capos. So these are 3 of the most common types of capos, and I want to just go through the pros and cons of these so you can decide which type that you should get and which type would be best for you. So first things first, when we're talking about why would you want a capo, well, the main reason that most people get a capo, the reason I first got a capo, is because when you're trying to learn other people's songs that they've written them with a capo on, right? So you'll see that this is capo 3 would be, you put a capo on the 3rd fret, and then everything that you're learning in that song is relative to the capo. So if they're saying something's on the 2nd fret in a tab, that really means it's the 2nd fret away from the capo. And the reason that everything's relative to the capo is because essentially you're just moving the nut down on an acoustic guitar. So everything becomes open on the 3rd fret now, which changes the tuning of the song. So, or changes the key, not the tuning, not the tuning. It changes the key. So, you know, if you're playing a C chord here and your song's in the key of C, and then you put a capo on the 3rd fret, and you're thinking you're in the key of C relative to the capo, well, you're really in the key of D sharp, because this is a D sharp note. What we're trying to do as musicians on this instrument is just try and get cool sounds. And there's a ton of musicians out there that have made a career out of writing songs with capos because it gives them cool sounds. It sounds great on an acoustic guitar. So that's the basic of capos, is that it changes the key, it moves the nut, it gives you different chord voicings so that you can play open chords up the neck. You can play songs in the key that they were written when you're playing cover songs. So I think capos are super cool. It's a super cool tool to use. And now I just want to go over the different types of capos. So I have 3 types of capos here, and they're essentially the most common type of capos. So we're going to start with probably the most common and most purchased capo of all time. I don't know if that's true, but if it was true, it would be the Kyser Capo. This is the first capo I ever bought. And essentially what this does is it just clamps onto the neck with a spring here. So it creates a lot of tension, right? It creates a good amount of tension on the neck. And that's one extra thing, is that when you put a capo on after playing open, sometimes it makes your guitar sharp. So you may have to tune it, and it's hardly noticeable to the untrained ear. So if you're just playing by yourself and you don't feel like tuning your guitar, then don't tune your guitar. But if you're playing in front of people, you're going to want to check your tuning, because, you know, it might make you sharp because you're shortening the strings essentially. And the Kyser Capo is great. So one great thing about the Kyser Capo is that, you know, it's easy to use. You just clamp it on, and where you store it. So when you're not using it, you don't want to have to take a capo off and like put it down or something. So it's very nice that you can just clamp it to your headstock. This thing just lives on the headstock of this guitar. And I typically just put the Kyser on this guitar, this Ibanez guitar, and then you can just clamp it on and you can get playing. So it's very simple. It's easy to use. This was the first one I ever bought. I would definitely buy another one of these. These are great for acoustic guitars. The only real con with this thing is that it really clamps down hard. You have no control of how hard it's going to clamp. And once we get into the other capos, you'll see that those are adjustable. But one thing, like if you're going to use this capo on an acoustic guitar, you're going to be fine. You're going to be totally fine. The only place I wouldn't exactly recommend a Kyser Capo is on an electric guitar, because an electric guitar has, you know, smaller strings. It's not as tough as an acoustic guitar. And what I mean by that is that when you put this on, it's going to throw this thing way out of tune. You know, some of the strings are much farther out of tune than the other strings. And it'll throw an acoustic guitar out of tune, but it'll barely throw an acoustic guitar out of tune. Like, it really clamps down and throws the electric guitar out of tune. So that's one thing with an electric guitar. So if you have an electric guitar, you're going to want a capo more like this capo, which is a Paige Capo. But you may not want your capo living on your neck unless you're using a capo with an electric guitar all the time. And we'll get more into this capo in a minute. But you might want a capo more like this one. So this is a D'Addario adjustable capo. And it has this here. So it's got a spring just like your Kyser Capo. But you can control the tension on that spring by turning this. So you could really loosen the tension up and put it on. So then it's not going to squeeze down on these strings as hard. And then this could either live on the headstock or however you want to do it. I don't typically use a capo with an electric guitar, but there are people who do. So this D'Addario capo lives on my Seagull guitar. And once again, this capo can just sit on the headstock, which is very nice. It's adjustable, as I said, so you can kind of work with that tension, so maybe it won't throw it so out of tune, right, when you put it on. But if you can hear that, that's because I took all the tension off to put it on the electric guitar. And now we have a ton of buzzing because it's not tight enough, right? Which is nice because now, you know, you give it a couple turns. There's no more buzzing. So this capo is really nice because it's adjustable and it's very similar to the Kyser Capo. Now let's talk about this capo. So this is a Paige Capo, and you see bluegrass players use these a lot. And what this does, it has a little flap here that clamps it down. So as you can tell, this thing is going to live on the neck, and it has a screw to tighten the tension, so it is adjustable. So these are actually pretty cool, and you can have this one on, put that one down, and you take this and you flip it over here and you clamp it on. So then it's sitting here, and when you're not using it, you can just put it up above your strings. And then when you are using it, you can pull it back down, whatever fret you want to put your capo on. You just tighten the back here. You tighten it down, so it's adjustable and you can tighten it down as much as you want. And you can control how much you adjust it to tighten it down. So that's really cool. So this would be cool for an electric guitar if you wanted it to live on your headstock right there. There's one major con with this capo, and it's because it lives on the neck like this. So since it's on the neck and you can't put it up on the headstock, it has a problem. If you're gonna hang your guitars on the wall, you're unable to hang it on the wall, because when you have a hanger for your guitar, it's holding it by the headstock, right? So, you know, it sits into that little U and it holds it by the headstock. Well, this thing sitting out in the back of this capo gets in the way. So you're unable to mount it on a wall. But if you're sitting in a stand on the floor, you have no issues with it. The last thing we need to talk about is just cost. So we have three capos here, and the Kyser Capo and the D'Addario Capo are very similar in cost. So actually right now in November of 2024, the D'Addario is like $3 cheaper than the Kyser Capo. So they're between $20 and $25. I don't know how that'll change depending on when you're watching this video, but you know, they're very similar in cost. So whichever one you like more, they're affordable. Whereas this is, you know, $35 to $40 for the Paige Capo. And this is a nice capo. The only real con I have with it is that you can't put it on a wall mount. And it's nicely constructed. It's good quality. I mean, they're all good quality. So I wouldn't say anything bad about the quality on any of these. but it is nicer that these are a little more affordable, the Diodario and the Kyser. So let me know which capo you prefer, which one you like to use in the comments below. And if you want to learn a song using the capo, I'll link a lesson that I did on how to play Don't Ask by John Craigie. And you may not be familiar with that song, but go check it out and I'm sure you'll like it.